Welcome to the 100th episode of Rewiring Health. As I was approaching the 100th episode and I knew I would be hitting it soon, I thought of so many ways that I could celebrate this moment to getting to 100 episodes. But the answer to what this is today actually found me. It's a really hard episode to get through because this episode is in honor and memory of my brother. And he unfortunately passed away 2 months ago. And it's still hard to even wrap my head around the fact that he's not here anymore. And I really just want to honor his memory because he was such an incredible person. And for anyone who ever got to know him, really saw the light that he brought to this world. And I want to share that with you today because even though he's not physically here, I truly believe his energy lives on, and he has left a lasting imprint on so many people that are still here. And he's left such a lasting imprint on me. And I truly believe part of my purpose here is to carry on his energy, his legacy, and everything that he stood for. And so my brother was an absolutely brilliant person. He was someone I looked up to my entire life. He had the answer to everything. And if he didn't, he was going to figure it out. He never let any obstacle in front of him stop him, slow him down, or deter him. He had a way of problem solving in a way that I had never ever seen anyone else do before. And he had a way of understanding things almost instantaneously. I remember going through PT school and I was learning about the nervous system and spending hours studying, and I would tell my brother about it. And the next time I talked to him, it's like he understood it better than I did. Like he would go research things and he was just fascinated with learning every single thing that he could. And he just had a tremendous ability to not only understand it, but to explain it in a way that was so easy to understand. And he digested it in a way and produced in a way that he could really educate other people. And he was responsible for so many important things in his life. He had patents, he had created multiple companies, had sold them. He had built up software that hospital networks were running on. He was responsible for so many big things at his work where he had to protect medical records of hospitals, and he had so many things on his shoulders. And yet he somehow seemed to be flawless at every single thing he did. He did it with such amazing ability to integrate so many things and yet show up in his personal life with full of love and just be the biggest cheerleader for everyone who was close to him. And I just always looked up to my brother. He was always someone who I know I could always count on, and he was my biggest cheerleader in my life and always had my back no matter what it was. Like when it was something important, he was there and he made sure he was there. And there's no doubt in my mind that he loved me, and he showed that time and time again throughout my life. And I just admired him throughout my whole life. He was always somebody I looked up to and just aspired to be. And the really cool thing is that when I was in a really tough place and really kind of feeling lost and stuck in a corporate world and not knowing what to do in my life, he was the one that said, well, why don't you start your own thing? Why don't you do your own business? I'll help you. So he actually got my business going with me and really believed in me and helped me and guided me in the first few months of my business through all the things that for most people feel so overwhelming. And it felt completely overwhelming for me at the time. And just having him by my side and just somebody I could call at any time and be like, all right, what do I do next? How do I do this? He was always there and always had an answer. And it was an answer that I could always trust. I knew that he was looking out for my best interests. And there's not many people in your life that fill that role. And he was just one of those people I could always count on. So the loss is just absolutely tremendous for me. But the reason I want to share this is because there's something that Sean struggled with. And that's something that I want to share with you because maybe this will resonate with you. Sean put everything and everyone in front of him. He said yes to everything except for himself. And when it came to work, he was always on call. Even if it was a holiday, I remember so many times on Christmas, he would pick up the phone because a server went down or there's a big catastrophe at work and he had to show up and be there. And I remember saying, like, it's Christmas. Like, you can't even take Christmas off. Like, give yourself a break. You know, you need to like step away. And he's like, you don't understand, Kel, this is too big. Like, I have to deal with this. Like, it's not that simple. Like, this isn't just your 9 to 5 job. Like, I have to be responsible for all these things. And there were so many times that I could see it wearing on him. He would be working all hours of the night. He was up all night long, and then he was up all day long. And I'm like, well, when do you sleep? And I don't know if he really did. I think he just caught sleep whenever he could because he just had too much to handle. And I could see over time it was wearing on him. And I was concerned. And I said, you know, Sean, it's not worth it. It's not worth you doing this. Like, and, you know, his response was like, well, I just have to get to this point and then things will settle down. And unfortunately, that was his response for years and nothing ever really settled down. It just continued to escalate and demand more and more of him. And I would have a lot of talks with him, just trying to like get him to honor himself a little bit more, take a moment, take a day off. Like, he had all this time in his PTO like he never took. And I'm like, you have time. Why don't you just take the time? And he's like, well, it has to fit in with their schedule. And I have to make sure that this is taken care of. And there was just never a time. And even when he took days off, which he's like, oh, I'm going to take Friday off. Like, I remember one time he was like, I'm going to take this Friday off. I'm like, well, why don't you just come over for dinner? Like, you know, we can hang out. And the day came and went, and he ended up working through that Friday, even though he was planning on having it off. And this happened over and over and over again. And in his head, and after many conversations, I know in his head, like, he was thinking, like, I just have to do this for like 4 more years and then I can retire. And he didn't know he didn't have time left. That's the hard part. So my brother was only 41. I mean, he's young. And that's really the message I want to share with you today. Like, we don't know how long we have left on this earth. And we have to take care of ourselves today. There may not be a tomorrow. And honestly, like, none of us thought that would ever happen. My brother didn't think that would ever happen. I didn't. My family, none of us thought we would lose Sean this year. We always thought that things would settle down for him. He would finally start to take care of himself and say yes to himself. Things would get better. He would be able to get to his point of retirement and live his life that he wanted. And none of us ever expected that the stress would catch up with him. And that's really what it was. He lived with stress for years and it just accumulated, and he constantly just kind of suppressed it and went about his business and like kept doing what he had to do. He was so focused on the mission of the company he was working for his businesses. He was so focused on the mission that he didn't focus or devote energy toward himself. And it got to a point where it did. And I know I have been caught in patterns like this in my life, and I know so many people are affected by this. And I think we are all, when we're going through it, we all have this illusion that it will settle down one day. We all have this illusion that one day it will get better. We all have this illusion things will eventually be to the point where we can take care of ourselves. And I think we all have this illusion that we have more time than we actually do. We have this illusion that our body is handling it better than it is. We have this illusion that it's not taking the toll that it is. We have this illusion that we're stronger than we are in those moments. And we have this illusion that we have always been able to handle things, and why wouldn't we be able to handle it this time? And these become really significant traps that keep people going in vicious cycles that take so much from them. And nothing is without a cost. And we may think that we can handle it. We may think that we are strong enough. We may think that we are resilient. We may think that we have all the time in the world, and one day we will get to the point where we can say yes to ourselves. But the truth is that everything is costing us something. And every time we say yes to the conference call, every time we say yes to the email, every time we say yes to the phone call, every time we say yes to the boss, every time we say yes to a coworker, every time we say yes to fixing a problem that somebody else created, we are saying no to ourselves. And that is the truth. And so I want to share this message, and I want to do the best job I can to honor my brother, because he didn't have the opportunity to turn it around and say yes to himself. And that hurts. It hurts a lot. And if this message can get to somebody who maybe resonates with what my brother was going through, what I've gone through for many years, then it is worth every second. You know, I can't go back and save my brother. That had to come from him. And that's the hard part about trying to help someone. You have to want to help yourself. And that's the really hard thing when it comes to seeing people go through a vicious cycle where, you know, in their head, they think they're doing all the right things. And, you know, he was a very successful person. My brother did brilliant things, amazing things that are going to live on. And so he left a lasting impression in many things, his work life, his family life, everything. But he was not willing to say yes to himself enough. And unfortunately, it contributed to him not being here today. And so really what this episode is about is the importance that we may live under the illusion that we have more time. We may live under the illusion that we are handling things. We may live under the illusion that we've always been able to take care of stuff and it's always worked out. But at the end of the day, we're human. We are paying the price every single day. Every single day we say yes to everyone and everything around us, and we inevitably say no to ourselves. So if you are someone who feels stuck, who feels like they are exhausted, who feels like they are trapped, where you have bills, you have the responsibilities, you have things that need to be taken care of, and you don't know how to navigate those and actually taking care of yourself, this is for you. And this is hopefully just brings you some clarity that it's time now. This is the time to take care of yourself. This is a time to start recognizing the price you're paying that maybe you don't even realize. And start recognizing that maybe thinking that we have 10, 15 years, that we will get to retirement, that we will be able to take a break, take a vacation, have some time to honor ourselves. Maybe that isn't inevitable. Maybe that's not promised. That's been a really big lesson for me. And honestly, it's been a process for me to even process the fact that he's not here right now. It's been a lot to really try to figure out, how do I move forward without my biggest advocate in my corner here. But I do truly believe that I have the same energy and love from him, just from a different place. And going through this, it has opened up my eyes that life is precious and we need to hug everyone in our life a little bit harder. We need to express what people mean to us. And we need to hug ourselves. We need to show ourselves compassion. We need to recognize that we are worth every ounce of love that we pour into ourselves, and that tomorrow truly is not promised. You know, I heard that saying for so many years, but it hits so hard right now that we are not promised tomorrow. So if there's something that you need to do and you feel this yearning to do, and you want to live a different life and you're sick of living the life you live right now, you may not have 5 years to make your mind up to make the choice. It has to happen today. And that's really the hard part, because it has to happen from within here. It has to come from within yourself. No one can ever force that on you. And that's been the really big lesson for me, that, no matter how much we wanted better, we wanted him to say yes to himself, it had to come from him. It's a hard thing to really conceptualize and process. But, at the end of the day, I know his love and his energy lives on. And I know that this message had to come out to help someone in his honor, in his memory. And I could not be any prouder to have the brother that I had. I'm very grateful for the years that I had with him, my entire life, to have him by my side. And I hope this helps. I hope this helps someone who really needed to hear this message, because it's all worth sharing this story if it can help someone say this yes to themselves. So I want to thank you all for being part of this community and listening to this podcast and supporting me through episode 100. It has been absolutely tremendous. One of the best things I've incorporated in my life. I have met some of the most incredible people who have transformed my thoughts, how I view the world, and how I move forward in the world. And I am just absolutely grateful for every guest, for every listener, and just to have this platform to share messages like this, where we all can learn that we have to honor ourselves, bring compassion into our lives, and be present for everyone who is meaningful in our life, and especially present for ourselves. We are worth it, and you are worth it. Thank you so much for being here today.